Right, let's do some filling. This is how we're going to make that nice smooth surface where there's maybe big deep scratches, or I've got a bit of wood missing, so I might have some veneer missing. I've even got there's a little decorative swirl here, but it doesn't look great anymore. I might even fill that in. Anything you can feel with your fingertips that feels significant is going to need a little bit of filler in if you want to get a really smooth surface. So this is the one that I use. This is Ronseal, and it comes in two parts basically, so you have to mix it. The hardener comes separately in a little pouch like that. It's just a really good sort of hard product that sands up really nice and smooth, much better than premixed. So I definitely suggest something like this. It's much better performing than sort of a polyfiller in a tube, for example. I haven't got a lot of deep scratches on mine. I've been going around it and having a feel. A lot of what I've got I can feel under my fingertips. It's just in the finish, in the actual varnish itself, which is going to come off. So let's just grab something to mix on. So I've got an old fog tape lid there, and I've got a lolly stick. Even little lolly sticks are quite handy actually. I just didn't have any to hand, but something that you can just throw away afterwards because this stuff sets up really hard. This particular one is actually dark, which is great because it's very similar to the colour of the wood. It comes in natural and white. And the only reason you might want to think about the colour is if you're thinking of keeping parts of the wood exposed, but you've got some areas of damage that you want to touch in. Having it dark means the touching in process is a lot easier because it's closer to the colour that you're aiming for. For something like that, a proper can opener is worth having because you're not stretching the lid with a screwdriver. So that's the dark. Really good to go with teak furniture, oak, walnut, that sort of thing. Just going to take if you have a lot of damage, don't mix up a whole heap of it all at once because it starts to go off really quickly. This will be ready to sort of sand down and smooth down within 30 minutes. It is a bit niffy, but that's because it's got solvents in that evaporate quite quickly, so it means it's quick to use. And you're not waiting overnight for it to go hard. So I'm just going to mix a small amount of the hardener in. I have actually got quite a lot here, because I usually do mix more than I need. But as soon as it starts to stiffen up and you find it hard to work with, throw it away and mix some more because that's not going to really, it's not going to fit into the gaps and the scratches as easily, and it's not going to stick as well either. So I'm just going to make sure that's really well mixed. I'm just going to get the excess off, so I've got, and then I'm just going to push that into the, I'm actually pushing it down to make sure there's no air below it. And don't worry about smoothing it and making it all perfect because that's what the sanding afterwards is going to do. We actually want more filler than you think it needs because it's going to shrink as it dries. So it doesn't matter if it looks a bit messy. I actually don't want to find that when I sand it that I've not got enough to sort of make that shape. So that's that. Not too much obviously, but it does sand off very easily. So then I'll just go around using my fingers to find anything that feels deep. Anything that's too deep, when you sand it, you're going to get a little hollow where that was. So you kind of think you need to pop a little bit in where you can feel something. And then when you sand later, if it disappears, that's fine. So I'm actually going to get rid of those swirls. They're not adding anything decorative. They're a little bit tired looking. So let's just get those out of the way because this is going to be quite a sharp looking drinks cabinet. So we'll just do that. Just going to fill that gap in as well there because it's got a little space where the two edges have shifted. You don't need lolly sticks for this. You could use a little spatula, you could use a knife. But like I say, make sure to clean it up quickly and then leave that. You should be able to tell when it's ready to sand because it will be cool to the touch. So in about 20-30 minutes. I'm going to put some in here as well. So don't worry about it being on top of the actual finish. You don't have to make it perfect. Take some of that excess off, but. And then a little tiny hole there from a nail where the. Quite a lot there. And obviously if you want to fill the holes now, you could go ahead and just fill it from here, but you probably also want to fill it on the other side as well, so that it's completely filled. They look quite deep, so I'll just in case they don't sand out with the finish. There we go. So let's look at repairing by gluing. If you've got any elements that are lifting like this, perhaps have fallen off like this, and they need to be repaired. Now, if you've got elements that have got lifting veneer, but then also holes as well, you're going to want to do the gluing first, get that secure, and then fill in the remainder of the space there. What I would suggest, if you've got lots of maybe bubbling of the veneer, where it's lifted and it's uneven, is that you're going to have to see how much of that damage you'll have to take away. Some of it you can basically clamp and glue back into place, but if it's really bubbled, if it's really broken and starting to like literally break up, you might need to strip that off. So get a little sharp blade or something and take off as much as you can and then fill. So you want to get it to be secure and sound really before you start filling anything. So you have to sort of take it, you have to judge it yourself really. And sometimes you have to go around the edge of something and see if it's loose. And if it's loose, you can try, like I've got a bit there, I can try and start feeding some glue underneath and then holding it down and see if that works. And then if there's any little areas afterwards, like I've got a tiny gap there, I'll fill it later. So that's your sequence. But you do have to gauge it because the damage on each piece will be different. So I've got some lifting veneer here. I just need to be able to feed some glue underneath that and then hold that in place. I've also got the piece upside down because I've got a little support here that's fallen out from the corner that I'm going to put back into place. So let's just get bits and bobs. Another plastic lid or something. You could use a tile, you could use anything, use a bit of old paper. But I just wanted to get the glue out so that I can be a bit more specific with how I apply it than pouring it straight out of here. So I'm using Gorilla Wood Glue. So this is the wood glue, so look for the white. It's really powerful and it dries really quickly, which is why I like it. There are other wood glues, but this is the one that I find the best. So I'll just get some out, like so. It's just easier to work with it once it's out. And then you can use different things to apply it. So I use these cheap little brushes when I need to apply quite big areas. Or you can use something like a kebab stick type thing to poke it into places. I've used old scalpel kind of craft knives to poke it in. You can even use syringes. So if you've got veneer that's bubbled up, you can cut a little mark in it and feed the glue in and then press it down, put weights on top of it and hold it down and see if you can get it to attach itself. So I'm just feeding this in under there, pushing it a little bit because I want anything that is loose to get a little bit of glue. So I'm just going to do same across here. So anything quite thin that you can slip in there and push the glue in, that's what you're after. Doesn't matter if there's any excess, but I will want to wipe that away before it dries because that can stop paint sticking. So again, around the edges, just you have to be a bit brave and pull it up. If it's going to come up, it could come up later. So just, don't be afraid to pull it off if it needs to come off, if it's looking past its best. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll get a little clamp. So these are great. They're quite inexpensive, usually come in pairs. And that allows you to put some pressure on and hold that while it dries. Like I said, about 30 minutes. These come in all different sizes, so obviously for this particular area, this is fine. And you just use the trigger to clamp it into place, like so, and I could put another one on this side. Like so. I actually do it the other way around normally because it's a bit of a, just release that and then turn it around. Just a bit safer, I think, rather than having that poking up. And then what I do, is I clamp it, which squeezes out the excess, then wipe it, and then clamp it again. Just try and get the glue off all the surfaces, especially if you've got bare wood that you're gluing. Sometimes you find these areas of damage after you've started working, so I found that after I'd started doing everything else. You know, sometimes you might have to come back and add a bit more filler. It's fine, you notice things as you're going along. Sometimes you notice them when you've started painting. So it's absolutely fine to revisit a stage. But you don't want dried glue on your wood. So just make sure to get rid of that. And then put that one there. And then leave that. If I can just get the excess out. Like so. These particular clamps come in all different sizes. So this is the really big ones that I use, which are great if you need to glue a whole cabinet. Maybe it's not sound, it's sort of starting to wobble, and then you can put this across and glue and clamp the whole thing. So you might need a slightly bigger size, depending what you're clamping. You can also use weights. So if you need to hold something down, you could put a weight on top of that, a couple of tins or something, or actual weights, dumbbells or something. So that's that one. I'll just put that to one side to let that finish drying. I'll actually apply it to both surfaces because I've got access, whereas obviously the veneer was a little bit difficult to do that. Just have to sort of feed it in. It is water soluble, so you can wash up your brushes with the glue, which is good. And then I'll put that into place there. And you could put something up against it, or I could again get some more clamps and hold that in place. And then I'll just wipe the excess off. And we're good to go.